Welcome to The Good Ride. I'm James Beastie, and today we're talking about the Nidecker Mellow, new for 2025, a complete redesign that adds a shit ton of camber, a little bit of early rise. It's lighter, it's poppier, it's much more of a dynamic carving board, and it does sacrifice a little float in powder to do this. It comes in a little longer length, a little narrower waist, but it's still very wide over the inserts. It bucks and bounces a little bit, too much for my taste, but if you're a lighter rider, this could work for you. It carves, it drives, it pops, it generates air very well. And it's a pretty recommendable board for those who love to turn and love to get air. So I rode this 5 days in a wide variety of conditions, everything from some firm but fun groomers to some good groomers to a little bit of powder, a little bit more powder, and a little bit more powder. I rode this with Nidecker Supermatic and Nitro Team TLS and my trusty Union Force bindings. And of course, this is an honest, objective review with zero brand oversight. And we can do that thanks to sponsors like Blower Board Shop, who's been selling to snowboarders longer than most resorts have been allowing snowboarders on the hill. So if you want to support objective content here at The Good Ride and support a brand that's been supporting snowboarders forever, buy through our links and give them your hard-earned cash. When it comes to sizing, this 52 fit me really well. Before, I used to ride the 150. That was a pretty wide board for my size 9 boots, and it was a little slow to turn. It's better for people with bigger boots. And this 52 doesn't seem that wide. This newer, lighter construction didn't work as well for my about high 180s to low 190s when I was testing this. This new board works better for lighter riders and those that like that light poppy ride. Now, when it comes to shape, this is tapered and directional. It has 10 millimeters of taper, which is more than the old Mellow, which I think was like 5 millimeters, something like that. It wasn't as tapered. It still feels just as directional as the old Mellow. And let's talk about where you're standing on this board. There's a 50 millimeter setback on side cut, but at setback on board on reference stance, you're looking at 4 inches back from center of board at a 20.75 inch stance width, which is really good for those who like to carve and turn. If you want to set it all the way back on a powder day, you're looking at 5.125 inches back from center of board at a 21.75 inch stance width. And looking at this camber, there is so much more than the old Mellow. The old Mellow used to go from the tail to just a little before the front insert, and then it had all this early rise. So it was more of a powder board that could carve on groomers if you really like to engage into the back foot. Now look at this. This is almost full camber. It has a healthy bow of camber under both feet, going to just a little bit before the nose with a little bit of early rise, but not a lot. So it really changed this board's personality. So this feels a lot more technical, a lot more locked in, a lot more advanced to expert than the old anybody could ride Nidecker Mellow of past. And this doesn't have the float it used to have because of all this extra camber, less early rise, a smaller nose, but the added taper, that little bit of early rise, that extra setback on board helps this float better than you would think it would by looking at all this camber. And I thought it did a pretty good job for this size in the powder that I got it in. Let's talk Nidecker Mellow Flex here. You can see it's medium stiff, not too stiff though. The nose is a good bit softer, especially up top. But as you start to transition into the camber area, it feels a good bit stiffer, and there's a lot less give as you get to about right here. The tail's pretty stiff, considerably stiffer than the nose. Overall, you get this very dynamic, very poppy ride. Even though the tail is stiff, I found it pretty easy to butter off there. The nose a lot easier. It's a very easy board to ollie. to generate your own air. It also springs out of a turn exceptionally well. And while it's very dynamic, very light and very poppy, it's not as ideal in uneven snow as the old Mellow. That's one trade-off here. In thicker, uneven powder, I felt this bucked me around in a 52 a lot more than the 150 did in the past because it had much damper construction than this. I wouldn't say though that it's a deal breaker, but it is a lot more bucky and bouncy than the old Mellow used to be, but a lot more poppy. So I think a lot of people are willing to make that trade-off. So let's talk side cut and edge hold technology here. There's not much going on, but I found that it gripped pretty well for being such a light, poppy board. It doesn't quite have that super confidence-inspiring grip that boards with more disruption in the side cut have, but it's not bad for what it is. And this is a pretty deep side cut. This 52 has a 7.2 meter side cut, which is definitely more on the turny side, and you feel it, but it doesn't get weird if you want to go straight or make more down the line turns. But this lives more for the across the groomer to circle carver kind of turner. And the spring out of the turn is exceptional. While you lose a little bit of float, you get so much more spring out of the turn on a carve. It's such a dynamic, springy, poppy kind of carve that I think a lot of people will really appreciate. And while this isn't a straight liner, it does pretty well going straight for how light and poppy it is. You're gonna get some chatter though. It's not the board you want if you like to straight line a lot. When it comes to the base glide, yes, I like this base's look. It's pretty. I wish it was black. It would be much easier to repair, but at least it's clear. So if you get a good P-Tex gun and clear P-Tex, you can repair this and keep it looking good. But the glide is very good. I think it's definitely upper tier. So overall, this leans more for that better conditions rider, but it's not terrible for all day riding. It's a little bucky, it's a little bouncy. And that's not really for me. I like the dampness of the old Nidecker Mellow, but I love the pop of this new Nidecker Mellow. I love the new Camber. It's such a fun board to turn. It's such a fun board to ollie with. And the old Nidecker Mellow, that was one complaint about it. It felt a little dead. It didn't have as much pop as this by a good bit. So overall, it really comes down to personal preference. And if what I told you appeals to you, then maybe this new Mellow could be great. I love the look of this. There you have it.